Hey there guys, alright, today we are back with some Epic History TV, this time Belisarius, the Emperor's Sword. Perhaps one of the greatest generals, perhaps even top 5 greatest generals of Roman history. Actually don't know too much about him, but I'm gonna learn. I'm probably not gonna talk too much. We'll see if I actually end up remembering stuff about Belisarius. I'm rusty on him, so see if I can add a good bit amount of information here. But before we dive in, make sure you check out the links below in my description box or in my pinned comment in the comment section. Got a link to my gaming channel here on YouTube and a link to my Twitch channel. Love it if you threw me a follow, hung out on the channel. Now that that's out of the way, let's just go ahead and dive straight into it.
532 AD.
Yeah, he was general during Justinian, right?
Constantinople, the greatest city in the world, is in flames. But this is no barbarian attack. Citizens of the Eastern Roman Empire are rioting, murdering
That's Rome 2 Total War.
State officials and setting buildings on fire. Trapped inside his own palace, Emperor Justinian fears his reign is over. He's already given in to the mob's demands and sacked his most hated officials. But now the crowds acclaim a new emperor, Hypatius. It's his wife, Empress Theodora, who'll give him the courage to act. And his most trusted general, Belisarius, to whom he'll turn to crush his enemies and save the regime. After centuries of imperial crisis, Justinian's reign will witness a Roman fightback that few had dreamed possible. Great victories over the barbarians, the reconquest of Rome itself, the reunification of the empire. Belisarius is the commander who will lead this onslaught. He will be remembered as Rome's last great general.
This is weird seeing the Rome 2 footage here from Epic History because they don't. Weird. It's like a shift.
Math and science are not subjects we talk about enough on Epic History TV, unless we're
5 years earlier.
527 AD. It's more than 50 years since the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Rome itself, the Eternal City, is now part of an Ostrogothic kingdom of Italy. But though Rome may have fallen, the empire endures. The Eastern Roman Empire remains a force to be reckoned with. An estimated 30 million people live under the rule of the emperor in Constantinople.
Daniel.
His authority stretches from the ravaged Balkans to the imperial breadbasket, Egypt, the Arabian desert to the mountains of Armenia. This Christian empire remains unrivaled in administrative sophistication, economic power, and military might. But the new emperor, Justinian, faces formidable challenges. In 527, he succeeds Justin, his uncle and adopted father, becoming the first.
That seems like such an out-of-place name for the time period. Justin. What?
Son to succeed his father as emperor in more than a century. Justinian is from a tough peasant background in Thrace, what's now Serbia. He's highly educated, restless and driven, and sets himself 2 ambitious goals. First, to restore harmony in the Christian Church by ending the schism between Chalcedonian or Orthodox Christians and Miaphysites, who argue over Christ's human and divine nature. Second, to reform and rationalize Roman law, the divinely sanctioned institution that distinguishes the Roman world from the barbarian. The imperial majesty should not only be adorned with arms, but also be armed with laws, so that there may be good government in times both of war and peace, he later declares. But as for any Roman emperor, the ultimate test of his legitimacy will come in war. For now, Justinian has good relations with the Vandals in North Africa and the Ostrogoths in Italy. The Balkan frontier requires constant vigilance. The successors to Attila's Hun Empire are never quiet for long. But it's in the east that Justinian faces his most immediate challenge: the Persian Sassanid Empire, a rival superpower of the Middle East. This frontier has been a battleground for centuries and witnessed its share of Roman defeats, including one emperor captured, another killed. For most of the last century, the shared menace of the Huns led to a wary coexistence. But it could not last. In 525, the Christian king of Iberia in the Caucasus appealed to the Romans for aid when the Persian king Kavad tried to impose Zoroastrian rituals on his country. The Romans send military aid, and the conflict escalates, with both sides launching cross-border raids.
Dun dun dun.
When the Romans begin building a new fort at Minduos, the Persians attack, rout the Roman troops, and destroy the building works. One of the Roman generals to escape this debacle is Flavius Belisarius. Clearly he is not blamed, because the next year Justinian makes him commander of all Roman troops in the east.
Oh damn,
He's
that's a fucking promotion. Jeez.
barely 30 years old. Belisarius and the emperor are old comrades and come from the same humble background in Thrace.
Oh.
He had served in Justinian's own regiment when he was still heir to the throne. His wife Antonina is the best friend of Empress Theodora, and like her, from a dubious background in the acting profession.
Oh damn.
With both Roman and Persian empires mobilizing for war, the next year, 530, will see Belisarius's first major test as a commander. The troops that Belisarius commands are far removed from the famous legions with which Rome conquered its empire centuries ago. Hard lessons learned from fighting Huns and Persians have helped to forge a new Roman army. For centuries, cavalry was the neglected arm of the Roman military, a role usually outsourced to foreign auxiliaries.
Yeah.
Now, heavy armoured cavalry known as clibanarii and cataphracti, armed with lance and sword, form the army's elite shock units. Some armoured cavalry, as well as cursores, light cavalry, also carry bows. The Romans, in imitation of the Huns and Persians, are now horse archers themselves.
Oh.
The best units are the bucellarii, the biscuit eaters, named after the army ration. These hand-picked soldiers form a general's personal regiment. Long service, good pay and equipment, plus a personal oath of loyalty make them his most reliable troops.
Okay.
Roman archers are now armed with the more powerful composite reflex bows of the Huns. And while infantry still made up around 2/3 of a Roman army, its role is more defensive, forming a secure base from which the cavalry could launch its attacks. The standard infantry unit is also smaller, called a numerus in Latin, arithmos in Greek, about regimental size, from 1,000 to 1,500 men. They're more mixed, with armoured veterans to form a fulcrum or shield wall, and more missile troops behind them to unleash a barrage of arrows, javelins and darts.
So this time they've got the veterans up in the front instead of behind? Okay.
Finally, Rome boosts its military strength by recruiting the very barbarians it had once despised, including Huns, Goths, and Heruli. Those outside the empire are recruited as mercenaries. Those within serve as foederati, federates, and are usually commanded by their own officers. The military organization of the empire has also been overhauled. Two central field armies stationed on either side of the Bosphorus are commanded by a magister militum presentalis and form a strategic reserve. Field armies based in Thrace, Illyria, Armenia, and the East are each commanded by a magister militum, and form regional rapid reaction forces. The frontiers are held by the Limitani. These are the lowest paid and least well-equipped troops, only expected to hold their fortified outposts until reinforcements arrive. Limitani are organized into local groups, each commanded by a dux, origin of our word, duke.
Oh, that's neat where that chapter.
Yet the thought has many times occurred to me, how many and how great are the benefits which accrue to states through history, which transmits to future generations the memory of those who have gone before, and resists the steady effort of time to bury events in oblivion. The historian Procopius is our key witness for the events of this period. He was born around 500 in the city of Caesarea in Palestine and received a first-class education. In 527, he was appointed assessor or legal advisor to Belisarius. He effectively became the general's secretary and, on occasion, aide-de-camp. Working from notes and writing in Greek, he would publish his great work, History of the Wars, in 551. Procopius's account is
Creative title. Excellent title, Procopius.
highly favorable to Belisarius, but there will be a sting in the tale, a scandalous secret history which will emerge later in the tale.
Gasp.
530 AD. King Kavad sends an army to capture the Roman frontier fortress at Dara. Today, the ruins of Dara lie on the Turkish-Syrian border, their scale hinting at the size of the Roman fortress that once stood here. Belisarius is warned that 40,000 Persian troops are advancing on Dara. He can only assemble 25,000 troops to meet them.
Oh no.
For reasons that are unclear, Belisarius decides to make his stand outside the city walls to the south. His men dig ditches to strengthen their position with...
But you had a fort. Why build? Why? Hold on. Why spend the time building trenches when you have a fortress behind you that would provide the same kind of defense as, if not better? Huh?
both flanks thrown forward. The infantry...
Well, I mean, obviously Belisarius probably wins this battle, but still.
...is placed in the center, with cavalry on both flanks. Two groups of 600 Hun mercenaries are positioned between them in support. At the rear, he places his reserve, his own Bucellari. When the huge Persian army arrives before Dara, Belisarius is ready and waiting. The first day begins with a standoff. The two generals exchange letters. Belisarius urges Firuz to withdraw, to allow time for further negotiations. Firuz tells the Roman to prepare his bath. He intends to be in Dara by nightfall. The Persians launch one probing attack against the Roman left wing, perhaps testing their defenses. The Persians are driven off, with 7 killed.
Like
when a young Persian warrior rides between the lines and challenges any Roman to face him in single combat, his offer is accepted by Andreas. Andreas has no military training, but he's a wrestling instructor of huge strength. Before the Persian knows what's happening, Andreas has knocked him off his horse with his lance, then dismounts to finish him off, like a sacrificial animal, in the words of Procopius. Andreas later kills a second Persian challenger, to Roman cheers and the dismay of the Persians.
I think I've heard of him before. Or, well, perhaps not his name, but what he did there on this day.
The next morning, Firuz receives 10,000 reinforcements, bringing his total strength to 50,000.
Uh-oh.
With odds of 2 to 1 in his favor, he decides to attack. Firuz forms up his army, with infantry and foot archers in the center, and his Persian heavy cavalry, the feared Savaran, on both wings. He also divides his army into 2 parts, a front line and a reserve line, so that fresh troops can be rotated into the fighting. He keeps a unit of Immortals, the elite Persian heavy cavalry, as his personal reserve. But first, he waits. He knows the Romans usually eat in the morning and are growing hungry, while his own troops are accustomed to eating later in the day. Finally, at noon, he gives the order. The Persian army advances to within bowshot, and both armies unleash a storm of arrows. Persia is famed for the skill of its archers, but today, the wind favors the Romans. When the archers run out of arrows, the Persian cavalry begins its advance. This is the moment Belisarius has prepared for. The Savaran crash into his left wing, driving the Roman horsemen back. But the Persians haven't spotted 300 Heruli horsemen hidden behind a slope on the Roman left, waiting for this moment.
An ambush.
They rush out from cover and attack the Persian cavalry from behind. Then 600 Huns fall on their flank. Under this onslaught, the Persian cavalry turns and flees, with heavy losses. Firuz switches to the other flank, attacking with his heavy cavalry, supported by the elite Immortals. The Roman cavalry breaks under the pressure, streaming back to the walls of Dara. But Belisarius has seen the threat. He recalls the Huns that are pursuing the Persian right wing and launches both Hun groups, as well as his own Bukellari, against the flank and rear of the Persian attack. It's the decisive moment of the battle. The Persian left wing suddenly finds itself under attack from three sides. Those that can't escape are cut down. Sunikas, one of the Hun captains, kills a Persian standard-bearer, then General Barsham himself, who commands the Persian left wing. With the elite units of the Persian army in flight, the infantry offers little resistance. Most are peasant conscripts, no match for Roman cavalry. Soon the entire Persian army is en route. Belisarius, content with his victory and unwilling to risk any last-minute reverse, halts the pursuit. Procopius tells us 8,000 Persians lay dead on the battlefield, a number that could be accurate.
I think that number sounds actually pretty freaking accurate. Usually, you know, for the scope of this battle, what, it was 50,000 Persians, 8,000 dead? That's, honestly, that kind of sounds a bit low. But considering Belisarius held back his troops from pursuing the route, I think that number is actually pretty freaking accurate for the time period.
For on that day, the Persians had been defeated in battle by the Romans, a thing which had not happened for a long time. Belisarius has won a brilliant victory for the empire. Later that year, Sitas, Magister Militum of Armenia, wins another victory over the Persians at Satala. The war is swinging in Rome's favor. But the following year, encouraged by a Samaritan revolt in Palestine, King Kavad orders a large-scale raid along the Euphrates River. Belisarius assembles an army to meet them. But having ravaged Roman territory, the Persians are content to withdraw with their loot. Belisarius shadows them. His subordinates urge him to destroy the enemy before they escape. So, against his better judgment, he attacks the Persians on Easter Sunday at Callinicum. The battle is a disaster. Rome's Arab allies, the Hassanids, hold the right flank. But Procopius accuses them of fleeing at the first sign of danger. Persian cavalry rolls up the entire Roman line.
God, I'm loving these animations here.
In desperation, the Roman infantry form a shield wall with their backs to the river. They hold off the enemy cavalry, buying time for the remains of the army to escape across the river. Callinicum is a humiliation for Rome and for Belisarius. His own role in the battle is unclear. According to Procopius, he remained with the infantry, organizing the retreat. Another source claims he was among the first to flee. It had clearly been a serious blunder to give in to pressure from his subordinates to fight an unnecessary battle. Belisarius is removed from command and recalled.
I think based off of what we've seen previously from Belisarius already so far, I think he would have been the kind to have been with that. I think Procopius's statement there to Procopius saying that Belisarius with the infantry, I think that is. I am gonna lean towards that being the more accurate statement there.
To Constantinople. Justinian is forced to pay a subsidy and make a compromise peace with Persia. Not with King Kavad, who dies that year, but with his 20-year-old son, Khosrow. Khosrow will prove to be the greatest of all Sasanian kings, hailed as Anushirvan, the immortal soul, and will prove a dangerous rival to the Romans. When major rioting breaks out in Constantinople the next year, Belisarius is in the capital, eager to restore his tarnished reputation. The riots have been instigated by the factions of the Hippodrome, the Greens and Blues. These are more than chariot racing fans. The factions run whole areas of the city. At first, they seek only the release of jailed comrades. But then there are calls for a new emperor, Hypatius, nephew of Emperor Anastasius. It's likely that Justinian's rivals in the Senate are now pulling the strings. Justinian hesitates. He wonders if they should flee the capital. Then Theodora speaks up. Life as a fugitive, she declares, would be unendurable. Better the old saying, royal purple makes a noble shroud. In other words, better to go down fighting. The emperor is emboldened by Theodora's words and orders Belisarius and another general, Mundus, to crush the revolt. Belisarius's hardened troops launch a sudden attack on the rioters. There is no mercy. The streets run with blood. The final death toll is estimated at 30,000, a staggering 1 in 20 of the city's population.
Ooh, fuck.
The next day, Justinian orders the execution of Hypatius and his brother, probably innocent pawns in somebody else's plot. Their bodies are tossed into the sea.
Ooh.
Thanks to Theodora and Belisarius, Justinian's throne is safe, for now.
Dun dun dun.
A Roman emperor relied on one quality more than any other from his generals: loyalty. Belisarius has proved his beyond doubt. Now, Justinian needs to shore up support for his regime, assert his legitimacy and God's favor with a military victory. He has his costly peace with the Sassanid Empire, so he will turn west. A war to reclaim Rome's lost provinces from the barbarians will be a service to God and Justinian. Such a mission can be entrusted to only one man: Belisarius.
Hurrah!
Massive thanks to Legendarian for providing our Total War gameplay for.
Oh, it was from Attila. Okay, I thought it was Rome too, but alright. That was Belisarius, the Emperor's Sword. Yeah, I didn't have much to say. Belisarius hasn't talked much in the classes I've had. Well, actually, my last semester at university, I was supposed to have I was supposed to take a late antiquity Roman history class, but that fell through and got canceled. I didn't get to. I probably would have learned about Belisarius in the class, but no, forgot to take that class, and I'm still upset about it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the video. Peace.